not chairing the session, but we will be start. There are some things that are being prepared for us. We will start in 15 minutes time. For me, since I like efficiency. That the time that we need to use it efficiently. I would like if there are any questions or remarks, from the 3 previous presentations, they can be asked, so that we can continue the discussions while we are still waiting, for the closing session. Okay, any other questions that people, have or have thought about? CSIR is here, they can answer that. Okay, Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone.
Your question can even to Irina is here. Also, they can actually answer the question.
No, my question is for CSIR. CSIR. Just to learn from them, what are the advantages of their paradigm shift from monopoly to independent power operators or producers? Yes, we just want to learn from the South African experience. What do you consider to be the advantages or challenges, if any, when you make your paradigm shift from monopoly to independent power producers?
I think Mr. Mshwana can answer that question.
Okay, very good question. We've gone through a lot in South Africa because of exactly that. Trying to shift from a monopoly to a more democratized energy industry is quite a challenge. As you would imagine, ESCOM is holding on to power, and the biggest challenge was that ESCOM is the single buyer of power. So if you have to buy power from your competitors and you don't really want to diversify the markets, and now government is forcing you to buy, you try all the delay tactics to make sure that you don't sign those contracts. So part of the challenges was that in 2014, preferred bidders were announced for round 4, and it took ESCOM 3 years to actually sign those power purchase agreements. And in those 3 years, a lot of damage was caused in terms of investments and economic opportunities for the country. So yeah, it does pose a lot of challenge. Now what needs to happen is we need to have to completely restructure the energy industry and make sure that we have an independent system operator that's going to buy power from everyone, including ESCOM, and that is going to make sure that the industry has got some form of liberation and do away with bias.
Okay. Any other question? Or discussion or any experience, that you share with your candidates? Okay.
Okay, I just want to add something. Can I? Okay, I just wanted to add some things to my colleague. One of the advantages, which of course has been experienced in my view, has been like the quick integration of generation sources into the grid. With the IPPs, I think in terms of that turnaround time has been much, much quicker, irrespective of the technology. Yeah, but another thing which was a challenge, especially in terms of planning the grid, in the past, ESCOM used to own all information about where future power stations are going to be, where they need to build the lines and all that. But with IPPs, it has been a bit of a challenge because now they have to do long-term planning, and sometimes they can't even do long-term planning unless they know there's a PPA that has been signed to connect an IPP. And usually the turnaround time to connect most of them, they'll be able to do the whole plant maybe in 2 years. But if we need the transmission line to connect them, the transmission line might take maybe 6 to 8 years in terms of permitting and all those type of issues. Yeah, but now they are working together with the Department of Environmental Affairs to streamline the permitting process for the development of the grid. So that has been one challenge in terms of making sure the grid is available for IPPs to connect quickly. But in terms of them connecting quickly to the grid where the grid is available, has been a great benefit to the grid and to ESCOM.
Okay, Eric.
My question is more technical regarding the SCP. I think they have good practice in CSP. Of course, it's capital intensive. Can I ask if they can give us the money necessary for mega, yes, and again, the tariff of CSP, and also the continuity of CSP, if it is continuous or if it is hybrid. How long it works per day, if it is 24 hours, okay. If less, if it is hybrid, maybe less hours.
Thank you. How much does it cost? Electricity cost for megawatts for CSP as compared to other technologies? I think that's the essence of the question.
Okay. Yeah, for CSP, I can quote the tariffs as we have them currently in our IPP program. The initial tariffs with the first round of the bid windows, it was somewhere around 3 rands odd. And now for the last bid window, it has dropped to around 199, just below 2 rands in terms of rands per kilowatt hour. So, and the technologies, as far as I know currently, they come with storage, so you will call that hybrid. So they'll generate during the day and they have some storage, but in terms of the hours, I'm not sure, but usually it's around 3 to 4 hours type of storage to be able to operate during the peaks. So that's how they are designed currently. And that's specified in the bidding requirements. Yeah, comparing with the other technologies in terms of tariffs, from the information that we have shared, like solar PV, in terms of rands per kilowatt hour, it's around 62 cents, and so is wind. So it's still a little bit expensive, but those other benefits, of course, they compensate, because solar PV and wind, you don't have any storage coming with them in terms of specified technology, but CSP will have that benefit. Compared with coal in terms of what you currently have, coal is around 1 rand. Yeah, 1 rand and 3 cents, right? Yeah, around 1 rand 3 cents. That's what we have. And
so, are you saying that CSP is the most expensive of the current energy sources?
At the moment, is the most expensive, but we have done like one study in the past to look at the value to the power system. Although it's expensive, there is much value that you can get out of it. Because my view is, if we didn't have a lot of hydro in South Africa, storage and all that, we were going to deploy more CSP because it comes with storage. And we've got like more renewables coming on board. But at the moment, we can compensate for that.
That goes over the whole life cycle.
Yes. Yeah, that's a life cycle cost. Life cycle cost, yes.
Rashid? Noted, yeah.
Yes, actually mine is not a question, just a comment to my colleague from Sierra Leone about IBB, the role of IBB, or the benefit of IBB, if I understand it well. I think South Africa somehow is in different case because it's a big system, it is coal dominated, something like this. But for the other country who present here, most of them the size of the system is a little bit small. So when we talk about IBB, I think is the most important one. The IBB, they can bring foreign investment to your country and to invest in the electric sector, where in most of our countries they are not able to put some investment in the power sectors. And the other thing, I think the IBB, they can drive the reduction of the cost of the electricity production, because no government company, they care about the cost. They can just generate, it is costs how many, they don't care because it's subsidized by the government. But really to do that, you need to do reform. First of all, you need to do a reform in tariff. You need to have a tariff cost reflective. So to sell the electricity with the real cost instead of the government cost, the government subsidized. And also to reform the regulatory framework so that IBB and the government company, they have the same right to access to the national grid. And I think this is a real challenge for that one.
Sorry, my question again to CSIR. When you talk about independent operator, now the transmission system is owned by ZESA. By ESCOM. I talk about ZESA Zimbabwe. By ESCOM. Okay. And then the grid distribution system, I think it's by the municipality, if I'm not mistaken. But you can correct me. Yeah. So now when you have independent operator now, what happened to the transmission system? It's been owned by ESCOM. So what you're going to do, are you going to take that transmission system from ESCOM and compensate them? And what you are going to do about the distribution system, who will manage and operate it?
At the moment, for a lot of IPPs, we've got those who connect directly to the transmission grid, connect directly to ESCOM, and we've got those who connect via the municipal network. So usually what happens, they'll pay what we call wheeling charges in terms of wheeling power through the network. So yeah, they'll pay to the network owner. So if it's the municipality who owns the network, they'll have a wheeling charge for the municipal network. So if it's ESCOM, they will pay that charge to ESCOM as well. So in terms of ownership for the networks, ESCOM still owns the network, and recently I know there was an issue with the IPPs who wanted to build the networks as well and own, but ESCOM has only allowed them to build and but to own, to build, but in terms of ownership, they said they will not actually allow them to operate the networks. So ESCOM will still operate.
But just to make a follow-up, this means that ESCOM is generator now, then they will control the transmission. They can stop any IPPF whom they don't like to generate and to connect because they are controlling the network now.
Yeah.
So the
at the moment, ESCOM, they do have what they call a single buyer office, which is like totally independent. If anything, it should be outside of ESCOM. And I'm sure maybe with a new model, they will have that office totally outside ESCOM. So they are totally independent, as specified by the grid code, so that they give equal access to all the users of the network. Yeah, so they have that office, but at the moment it's still within ESCOM, but they are responsible for making sure that access to the grid is on a non-discriminatory basis. So ESCOM is treated the same as everyone else.
So if I can just to make a follow-up. Now, the off-taker in this case, will it be the final user who is going to be the off-taker and how the tariff will be decided in this case? Remember, there is no single off-taker now. I'm generating power, feeding to the network, and everybody who wants, he can take. Who will be the off-taker in this case and how the tariff will be decided in this case? It's quite interesting, actually, scenario.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's of course can be a long discussion, but at the moment, of course, ESCOM at the moment, that office is called the single buyer office because the actual ESCOM is like the single buyer of all the IPP power that is produced in the country. So, and then ESCOM will have the role to distribute to everyone else. So the tariff will still be set at the ESCOM level, but all IPPs, in terms of power generated, they will sell only to ESCOM at the moment. That's how it is. Yeah, so ESCOM will set the tariff accordingly, looking at all the generation sources in totality, not only from IPPs.
Okay, Commissioner?
Just a clarification. I think I remember in one of the presentations where you said that the tariff is not cost reflective at the moment, and then so ESCOM being a single buyer from the IPPs, so have they been subsidizing the IPPs, or is it the government? Maybe that's why they've been dragging their feet to, you know, to sign those PPAs.
I can just answer what I know. I'm not sure if my colleagues will be interested to join in, but in terms of the tariffs which comes from the IPPs, at the moment the arrangement is that ESCOM does not subsidize any IPP, but the tariff which the IPPs get in terms of the payments which the IPPs get is like a pass-through according to their tariff in terms of what they are paid for providing the energy to the system. So there is no subsidy at all. So whatever the tariff says for them, that's what they get. Yeah, so for ESCOM, basically there is no actual impact at all. Yeah, so they were dragging their feet for other reasons, really. I mean, those are like really political reasons. So in terms of renewable energy power producers, I think there was no actual impact of them subsidizing them.
Okay, yes, Bakina.
Merci, monsieur le modérateur. J'ai juste une petite question. Quelle est la place des systèmes hors réseau dans la planification énergétique de l'Afrique du Sud? Parce que j'ai vu dans une des présentations que selon la nouvelle approche, c'était de construire de petites centrales au lieu de grandes centrales. Donc je peux savoir, est-ce que actuellement vous avez des mini-réseaux ou bien c'est un réseau interconnecté sur tout l'étendue du territoire? Merci.
Okay. Okay, fine. I just hope I got the full question. I understand you're saying if we have mini grids or small power plants, or I've got like a big integrated system. Yeah, currently in South Africa, we do have small mini grids which are being developed in various areas. Actually, there are actually two ones that we're involved in as the CSIR, which are being implemented as mini grids with PV, battery storage. I think the one that's got a diesel generator, and they're looking at wind as well as part of the mini grid. So we do have a few which are being planned, but generally speaking, our system is well integrated. And even with these mini grids, the idea is not to have them totally isolated. Our view always has been that mini grids which are being developed should be integrated into the future among themselves and also with the entire power system. And that's where you get the best efficiency. Because most of them currently, as you might know, if you have got all these technologies like storage or maybe wind, they're quite expensive by themselves. But if you have them integrated with the system, there is some kind of efficiency that we're able to gain in terms of costs, also in terms of their operation. But if they're isolated, they become quite expensive to run. And yeah, so the idea that we have from the Research Institute is that we can have mini grids, but in the future, the idea should be everything to be integrated to ensure that we have got efficiency.
Thank you. Ambassador, I've noted you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm proposing that our regional organizations, continental regional organizations, say the ECA, NEPAD, AUDA, and the African Union should, I think, factor in the issue of conflict resolution and prevention within the so-called energy mix. Because with enhanced technological development, you find that many African countries are finding energy resources, and instead of this being an opportunity, as is being, the meeting gives a very optimistic view, but there are instances where you find that, for instance, countries are nearly going to war, say Somalia and Kenya as an example. Some energy was found, I think, around their border, and they have failed to agree on who is the real owner of that resource. And I think in Lake Tanganyika or Lake Malawi, there was also some tension some time ago. So I think rather than our falling into crises, as a vicious cycle of crises, we should, at the continental level and regional level, we should also factor in the issue of the prevention of conflict if we are to benefit from the glorious optimistic future we are deliberating about. I think.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure AUC is looking at those kind of potential conflict areas. Swaziland or Swatini?
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. To me, it's still not clear what the role of the regulator is at ESCOM, because in our case, the regulator has been given the authority to procure for the new IPPs. So I'm not sure whether we're doing it right or we're doing it wrong.
Yeah, role of the regulator in South Africa vis-a-vis procurement of additional power. What is the role of the regulator? Because in Swatini's case, the regulator plays a critical role in procuring sort of new power.
Yeah, I think maybe it depends with the governments. Even in South Africa, I remember when the program for renewable energy IPPs started, the idea was for the regulator to come with a feed-in tariff and also to run with the process. And for some reason, I'm not sure if it's political or capacity issues with the regulator, eventually that role was handled by Treasury. And Treasury with the DOE, they formed what they would call the DOE IPP office, which is basically reporting directly to Treasury. But of course, in terms politically, it's the DOE. And basically, they are playing that role, which initially we actually had thought will be played by the regulator. But actually, the model seems to have worked because they've managed to achieve quite a bit. But in terms of the technical or regulatory stuff which have to do with the IPPs, still the regulator is responsible for that, because the codes for the renewable energies and all the specifications that they must comply with in terms of compliance to connect to the grid, for access to the grid, everything is still being done by the regulator. Yeah, but in terms of the procurement, that is done by the DOE IPP office, which is reporting directly to Treasury.
But really, following to the question, normally the regulator should be responsible to do the forecast, to procure the additional IBB, because at the end the regulator should fix the tariff, and then if the IBB in commission and they have no sufficient load, the regulator should pay the IBB. So their role is very crucial. If you look at Kenya, the commission do everything. They license the new IBB, they do all the procurement, they fix the tariff with the IBB, they make sure IBB they have sufficient load according to the power purchase agreement. So again, South Africa case is different because they have heritage system. But for a small system, all new system, the regulators, they have a core function in all the issue. Now looking back to ESCOM now, I just expect that ESCOM maybe is split to the co-company. One company is related with the transmission line and maybe distribution, the same like Kenya, and they have a core business in generation. And with the generation, ESCOM will be one among different generators. And in this case, then the regulator will be a crucial role in South Africa. And I think in the future, South Africa should have a very strong regulators so that to control all the players in the field.
We'll take that as a comment. You know, any other issue? You want? Yeah, comment.
I just actually want to comment on the pumped storage. I mean, the pumped storage was mentioned during CSIR presentation. One will ask himself, if I'm going to pump water up to a mountain there, in a tank there, and then use that water later on, I need energy to pump that water up. And then when I want to use it again, you know the simple rule, what you get is always less than what you put in, efficiency. So what you will get when you will get less energy than what you spend to pump the water. So what is the economic value of pumped storage? So I just actually want to throw some thought about that issue. Pumped storage is only economical when you pump during the off time. During the off time, the tariff is less. And then you make use of it during the peak time. This is the only situation where pumped storage can make economical sense. Apart from that, it doesn't make any economical sense. Thank you.
And that is also a comment and a food for thought. Any other issue that we want to raise? Yes, Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a comment in respect of the role of IDEP. I see they have done a lot in Southern Africa, but then there are other energy potentials in the West African sub-region, particularly when you consider states that are Sahelian states, like Burkina Faso, Mauritania, Niger. You know, they have a lot of energy potential, particularly in the area of development of solar energy, which is a renewable energy source. I don't know if Arena can try to, you know, tap into that so that they will also find your organization very useful in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. So thank you, Sir, for the question. So the work on resource assessment we've done in Eastern and Southern Africa, I mean, involved quite a lot of time and resources. And but having done that, we've done something similar in West Africa, but that was done at regional level. So in Eastern South Africa, we actually all went down to the country level, so each country had some sort of resource map that we developed for them. So building on what we already done in West Africa. So in West Africa, so at the regional level, try to identify the zones that will be, the areas that will be suitable for the development of solar and wind, both on-grid and off-grid. The technology is very similar, but some of the criteria that we use in the Eastern Southern Africa, we didn't use them in West Africa. But now we're trying to kind of develop the methodology now, based on, but now we only do it based on requests from countries. So trying to own the methodology in-house, so that when a country requests to have a more detailed map that goes at country level to kind of show these areas for development of wind and solar, then we'll do that. All right.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Ok, merci. J'hésitais au fond à poser ma question, mais comme l'occasion m'est donnée, je vais la poser tout de même. C'est par rapport au cycle de planification, parce que en principe, quand on a planifié, on doit mettre en œuvre, on doit suivre et réajuster maintenant. Ma question justement, c'est au regard de tous ces grands projets, ces gros investissements, comment est-ce qu'on suit et on évalue?
Can we follow and evaluate the performances that we reach? This is my question, because at our level we have shown many willingness in what we do in the long term and short term, to see whether the money we have used in the past have been well used. Now we will have to take into account the efficiency in the public finances.
Yes. Any other issue? Yes.
Thank you. We spend this week, we talk about planning, and I don't know if my English I didn't understand, but I think one thing we didn't talk, and then I need to learn from my colleagues here. In the planning, I didn't see anybody talk about energy efficiency in planning. We talk about generation, we talk about transmissions, we talk about energy efficiency. I want to learn in all these countries what you are doing in energy efficiency. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask Mr. Mushrana if you can put that slide on energy efficiency. I think that's about time now, if you can do that. And its role in energy planning, if you can. That was a very, very good question, you know, and because of the time issue, you know, when he was presenting, he did not present that because it's taken care of. While he is still getting the technology to work, is there any other issue? Was it going to address the energy efficiency issue? Is there any other issue that you think that we need to talk about? Okay, I think this is going to be a last intervention. You know, I think we've exhausted, you know, the energy planning, as far as I can see. Yes. whilst we are waiting for that, oh, you're done. I was just going to make a small announcement, that ECA, will be conducting an energy planning training, modeling, using the OSMIS and also onset planning, for the Horn of Africa. I think I've mentioned that. This training is 2 parts. The first part of the training takes place between 16th to the 20th of September. Then the second part of the training takes place between the 30th of September to the 4th of October. So that's taking place in Addis Ababa. We're responding to the request from the countries in the Horn of Africa. So it's taking place in Addis Ababa. And I'm not sure our colleagues, if you want to know more about this, maybe we can talk offline. Mr. Mushwana, are you ready? Okay.
Yeah, these are some of the input assumptions that we had in our IRP, although their focus was mainly even at a household level in terms of the usage of electric water geysers, electric water heating systems, and all of that. Yeah, but in addition to this, there were also other measures in terms of energy efficiency which were considered in the development of the load forecast. And in terms of capacities which were estimated for the different technologies, this is what was assumed up to year 2050. These were classified as demand shaping type of technologies, which include energy efficiency or maybe even dynamic demand control. Yeah, so there were some aspects which, of course, are being considered. Others will be embedded in the load forecast, and others will be modeled explicitly as part of your energy plan. So if some of these things change in terms of efficiency that you can get, they will also affect what your plan looks like. Yeah, so this is all I can share. Just these 2 slides, some assumptions that we had, and also some technical parameters that we included in the modeling.
Okay, thank you. That's all for today in this segment, and we've managed to be given extra time, which we highly appreciate. Because some of the critical issues came in this segment. So now, just in the interest of time, I would like Mohammed to tell us what's going to happen, henceforth. Mohammed, if you can.
Thank you, Anthony. So, colleagues, share colleague, we are waiting the management to come to do the closing remarks and to issue certification, and then that will be the end of this dialogue meeting.
The other piece of information, I'm sure you are asking yourself, why would you have closing remarks, but the outcome documents that we talk about is not here, for that document. So what we're going to do, that this document is under preparation. The draft that was here, that was prepared, was not in a right state that we can actually present it to you. So what we are going to do now, we're going to sort of rectify that, and send as a draft to your emails sooner very, very soon. You know, it could be in matter of days. You know, so that you can look at it, and then maybe you can, if you submit your comments, you know, interact, change, and then we can have that document. You know, so that, which is the information that I just received, you know, that we beg for your understanding, you know, that the document that we've prepared, that is here now, we found that it's not really a right document that can be presented for you to comment on. So we beg your understanding, and you know that you will actually bear with us, you know, that the right document that actually outlines the outcomes of what we've been talking about, you know, is gonna be sort of submitted to you within days. Remember, there are two types of documents here. This one is more of a workshop report on that 3 days of the dialogue. You know, and then there is another one, the compact. The compact one, we know the timelines and the roadmap. We were very clear, you know, what is going to happen of the process. That one is the most critical one. You know, what we don't have now is a workshop report, because we're supposed to have that 2-3 page workshop report, particularly outlining the consensus areas, the areas that we actually discussed and deliberated on. That's the one that is not yet ready, because we talked about it yesterday. And then we promised that it would actually even have 2 languages at a minimum, you know, French and English, so that we can comment on it. But we can still do that, because we are all committed to the process. The member states are here, they are committed to the process, and we want to believe that when we email it, the document, in matter of days, you know, not even in weeks, in matter of days, you know, you may actually get your response in writing. You know, so that I would actually, you know, apologize for that. Yes, the document is here, but we feel, especially the management here, they feel that it's not in the right way that we can actually, you know, discuss.
Let's see if you can tell us did you organize anything for tomorrow? No, nothing. What? I thought you organized something. Did you organize anything for tomorrow? You were talking about the dinner party. You forgot all about that?
I thought there was going to be a reception.
There's no reception? Tomorrow? Okay.
While we are still killing time, are there any announcement happening at a regional level of some important events? For instance, I've just mentioned the, you know, the training that we are doing for the Horn of Africa as ECA, you know, on these 2 sort of open source models for energy planning and energy access and energy sort of extension. So if there are sort of at a regional level, you know, some of the important things that are happening, so that, because this is a dialogue, it's part of a dialogue, so that we know what are the most critical things that are happening. Maybe at the institutional level, you know, that you want us to be aware of.
Just to kill the time again, in the first day when we started the dialogue, there's some actually participants saying, why my country is not connected. I think Uganda said, why you are not connected to such a country? And there was a number of voices talking about connection. And I thought this is the right time just to brief you with what AUDA and IBAD is doing in response to a request from the Africa Ministerial Meeting, SCTC Ministerial Meeting. they asked Auda and IDEP to develop master plan for continental transmission network. And the master plan for continental transmission network will be based on regional